Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabanu Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kipasindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. Quick announcement that my Srimad Bhagavatam course classes are going to start very soon. Date and time is not yet given. I will share with you all as soon as I know the date and time and whether it impacts the timing of our classes. I will inform as soon as I know. I have requested to Mayapur Institute to have the classes at a different time. Generally, it used to happen at the same time when we are having this class. So I'll keep you posted what happens. So today we're going to revise Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Unit 15, chapters 1 to 5 of the 7 chapters, where you all will be doing your respective presentations. So let's start. Mother Chandra Aunty is first.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, all devotees, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, Sri Radha and Krishna, seeking permission and able to speak. Please pardon me for any of my mistakes. From the title, the geological title of the Daughters of Manu, Canto 4, Chapter 1, I have chosen geological line of Akuti and Devakuti. The Supreme Lord himself does the real creation by agitating his material energy, and then by his order, Brahmaji attempted to create the different planetary system and the inhabitants, expanding the population through his progeny like Manu. The secondary created Brahmaji's son Swayambhav Manu with his spouse Satrupa has 3 daughters, Akuti, Devakuti and Prajati. We have already discussed Devakuti and her husband Kardara Muni and their son Kapila. Swayambhava Manu is specially mentioned here because he is the great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though he had 2 sons on his own, he still asked his son-in-law Prajapati Ruchi to hand over the son born to his daughter to him as his son. He knows that Supreme Personality Godhead will be born to his daughter. This is Putrika Dharma, which can be adopted by the mankind also. Ruchi was considered a first-class Brahmana. He is mentioned as Brahmana Vargasvi. Out of two children, the male child is the direct incarnation of Supreme Personality Godhead, and his name was Yajna, which is Vishnu's another name. The female child is the partial incarnation of Lakshmi. The Yajna married Dakshina and had 12 boys. They became demigods. Maharishi became the head of 7 rishis. Yajna became the king of the demigods, Indra. Swayambhu Anu's daughter, Prasuti, married Brahmaji's Daksha and had 16 daughters. His sons, Prayaprata and Uttanapada, become very powerful kings, and their sons and grandsons spread all over the 3 worlds during their period. Son Uttanapada's spouse, Surichi and Suniti, born Dhruvasa Muni. From his seventh son, Prithu Maharaj was born. Anusuya, the wife of Atri Muni, gave birth to 3 very famous sons, Soma, Dattatreya, and Durvasa. Representation of Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. Here, Vidura inquires Maitreya, how come 3 creators, the creators, maintainer, and destroyers, became the offspring of the wife of Atri Muni? When Lord Brahmaji asked them to create generations after marriage, they went to perform a severe austerity in the valley and reached a beautiful waterfalls. There, the sage concentrated his mind in yoga by standing on one leg, controlling all attachments, eating nothing but air for 100 years. He was thinking of the Lord of the universe and praying to offer him as child exactly like him. In Bhagavad Gita, it says, this type of desire is a material desire because he did not want Lord himself. So he is not a pure devotee of the Lord. At that time, 3 deities appeared before him with their demigods and the Gandharvas. He was so happy to see them and approached them on one leg, offered respects and prayers. They were seated on different carriers, a bull, a swan, and a Garuda, by falling down like a stick. The sage said, how Lord Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, you have divided into 3 bodies by accepting the 3 moods of material nature. I offered my respectful obeisances to you all and beg to inquire whom to you 3 I have called for by my prayer. I called the Supreme Personality of Godhead, desiring a son like him, and I thought of him only. Now I am greatly bewildered about this. The 3 deities told the sage, dear Brahmana, you are perfect in your determination, and so as you have decided, so it will happen. And they disappeared after granting the benediction. Thereafter, the partial representation of Lord Brahma, the moon, from Vishnu, the Dattatreya, and from Shiva, Durvasa, were born. from Vishrava's first wife, Kuvera, and from the second wife, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana were born. The other daughters gave birth to many children, especially Kriya, wife of Kratu, gave birth 60,000 great sages. Thus, the population of the universe was increased by descendants of sages of Kardamuni. Anyone who hears this description of the dynasties with faith will be relieved from all the sinful reactions. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Super excellent. Shivangi is next.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, seeking permission and blessings from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru Parampara, as well as Sri Radha Krishna, to offer the summary of Canto 4, Chapter 1, titled The Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu, specifically Part 2 of the chapter from verses 48 to 66, titled The Genealogical Line of Prasuti. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. Daksha begot 16 daughters of his wife Prasuti. Of these 16 daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and one daughter was given to Agni, and another given in charity to Pitraloka. One of these daughters was Sati Devi, who was married to Lord Shiva. The names of the 13 daughters who were given to Dharma are Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti, Tushti, Pushti, Kriya, Unnati, Buddhi, Meda, Titiksha, Hri, and Murti. These 13 daughters all gave birth to sons. One of those 13 daughters, Murti, gave birth to Sri Naranarayana Rishi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On his appearance, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and in all directions the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they showered flowers from the sky. Sages chanted Vedic hymns, Gandharvas and Kinnaras sang, Apsaras danced, and in this way, at the time of the appearance of Sri Naranarayana Rishi, all signs of good fortune were visible. Great demigods also offered their respectful prayers. The entire cosmic manifestation is full of variety, but actually that variety is a manifestation of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and that energy is rooted within him. Now the Lord himself, after manifesting his energy, appeared within the creation of his energy, which is simultaneously one with and different from himself, and therefore the demigods offer their respects to the Supreme Lord, who manifests himself in such varieties. Thus the demigods worshipped him with prayers as the sage Naranarayana. The Lord accepted their prayers and glanced upon them with mercy, and then departed for Gandamadana hill. In adult, a portion of Narayana had appeared in the family of the Kurus, and that Narayana, the plenary expansion of Krishna, had come as Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with the purpose of delivering conditioned souls from the pangs of material burdens. After describing the descendants of the three wives of Dharma, who were all Daksha's and Prasuti's daughters, Maitreya Muni also described the 14th daughter of Daksha, Swaha, who was married to Agni Deva, and their 3 sons. From those 3 sons, another 45 descendants were generated, who were also fire gods, and there were a total 49 number of fire gods. The 16th daughter Sati, as mentioned earlier, was the wife of Lord Shiva. She could not produce a child, although she was always engaged in the service of her husband. This was because Daksha used to rebuke Lord Shiva in spite of his faultlessness. Consequently, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up her body by dint of mystic yoga power. This concludes the summary. Thank you all for listening. Hare Krishna.
Super excellent. Any questions, comments, realizations for Mother Chandranti and Shivangi?
Very good presentation, Prabhuji.
Shivangi?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you explain this Naranarayana Rishi? I found it a little confusing. How can it be both Krishna and Arjuna?
So the representation of Narayan is Krishna and Arjuna. Nara means human and Arjuna is representing Nara and Narayan is of course Narayan. So that's how it is that Krishna and Arjuna are representing as Nara and Narayan. Think this, I can't remember where in Srimad Bhagavatam further this description comes up, but someplace it does come up. Can't remember where. I can only briefly answer this right now. Shivangi?
Okay, Prabhuji, I'll hold the question.
All right. All right, let me do quick presentation of Canto 4, Chapter 1. So Canto 4 is titled The Creation of the Fourth Order. Canto 4 has positive examples and is filled with glories of the Lord, His devotees, and the process of bhakti. Canto 4 also has examples of negative incidents which serve as a caution for practitioners. And Canto 4 also has glorious examples of few Vaishnavis who were devoted to their husbands. Unit 15 is titled Daksha Yajna and is covering chapters 1 to 7. This Unit 15 is example of negative incident on offenses and anger. In the previous Canto 3, Chapter 29, verses 8, 9, and 10, we discussed devotional service in the modes of ignorance, passion, and goodness. This Canto 4, Chapters 1 to 7, this Unit 15 on Daksha Yajna is the example of devotional service in the mode of ignorance. The positive learnings are from Lord Shiva, which we should learn and apply, as well as the mistakes of Daksha is also an important learning for us that we should avoid. The lineage of Swayambhuva Manu is described in this Canto 4. Swayambhuva Manu has 3 daughters, Akuti, Prasuti, Devahuti, plus 2 sons, Uttanapada and Priyavrata. First, the family of Akuti is described. Swayambhuva Manu got Akuti married to Ruchi with a condition that the son of Akuti and Ruchi will be handed over to Swayambhuva Manu, even though Swayambhuva Manu had 2 sons of his own. The reason being, Swayambhuva Manu knew that Akuti and Ruchi's son is going to be Supreme Personality of Godhead, named as Yajna. And the daughter is named as Dakshina. So although Yajna and Dakshina appeared from Akuti, they are Lord Vishnu and his eternal consort Lakshmi. And they are beyond material creation. Therefore, their eternal relationship cannot be changed. Next, the genealogical line of Devahuti is described. Now, Devahuti's discussion started in previous Canto 3, specifically focused on Devahuti's son, Lord Kapila, who is Krishna himself. Lord Kapila appeared in this material world to teach to the world devotional Sankhya through Devahuti. So even though Devahuti is not the eldest daughter, but because of Lord Kapila appearing from Devahuti, therefore Maitreya Muni first describes about Devahuti and Lord Kapila in Canto 3. And then the discussion continues here in Canto 4, where Devahuti's 9 daughters are described, and they were married to various personalities, and their family history is described. One of the 9 daughters is married to great sage Atri Muni. Now, question here is, why is Atri Muni not counted among pure devotees? Because the great sage Atri Muni had no specific idea of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atri Muni was thinking that may the Lord of the universe, whom I have taken shelter, kindly be pleased to offer me a son exactly like him. So Atri Muni concentrated his mind upon a Supreme even without knowing the Lord. He just wanted to beg from him a child exactly on his level. So this kind of devotional service in which knowledge of God's name is lacking is described in Bhagavad Gita, where Lord says that 4 kinds of people with background of pious activities come to him asking for what they need. So Atri Muni wanted a son exactly like the Lord, and therefore he is not supposed to have been a pure devotee, because he had a desire to be fulfilled, and that desire was material, because he did not want the personality of Godhead himself as the son. Rather, Atri Muni wanted a child exactly like Lord. Therefore, Atri Muni cannot be counted among pure devotees. And lastly, the genealogical line of Prasuti is described. I won't go into detail. One of the point is that Nar Narayan appeared from one of the daughters, and the entire world was joyful. And another point explained is that from one of the daughters married to Agni, there were other fire gods also appeared. So in total, there were 49 fire gods, meaning the 45 children plus the 3 sons of Agni and the Prasuti's daughter Swaha, as well as Agni himself. That's a quick overview of Canto 4, Chapter 1, rather than going into tiny details, which Mother Chandra Aunty and Shivangi anyway provided. Any questions, comments, realizations?
Canto 4 is an enlightening topic, Prabhuji, according to my realization.
All right. Yes, very good. Correct point. Okay. So we will now do Canto 4, Chapter 2. Now, Dipanshu Prabhu was supposed to present, but he's not able to present. So he only informed me just now, when the class started. Is anybody wanting to present? So if we are not able to present live for whatever reason, we should try to record and do the glorification of the Lord. We are all busy. There's no doubt about it. And we are trying to get purified through Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we continue to get more and more entangled in the material world and having no time for spirituality, well, that defeats the purpose of pursuing spirituality. So we should try to record if we are not able to do the live presentation. So right now we'll just skip the first part of Canto 4, Chapter 2 that Dipanshu Prabhu was going to present, and Mother Chija will present the second half. And then I will do the presentation of the whole chapter.
Hare Krishna. Shall I start, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I offer my obeisances to our Jagat Guru, Srila Prabhupada Ji. I seek the blessings of all devotees. Kindly forgive me for any of my mistakes and shortcomings. I seek the blessings of Srimati Radharani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 2, verses 20 to 35. These verses are about Nandishvara counter-cursing Daksha and Bhrigu cursing Lord Shiva, and later what happens. Mahamaya and ego takes over when one is angry. Daksha, puffed up by his exalted position, was angry on Lord Shiva, hence curses Lord Shiva. Daksha was not acting at soul level, but at materialistic level. Daksha did not exhibit any good qualities of a Mahatma. Nandishvara, one of Lord Shiva's principal associates, and his followers could not tolerate an insult to Lord Shiva. Nandishvara counter curses Daksha. Nandishvara's curse was that anyone who supported Daksha would be bereft of transcendental knowledge of the soul and also be deprived of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Daksha, who was attached to Gramya Sukha or material happiness, will have the head of a goat. Daksha and the Brahmanas will continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death. The three curses of Nandishvara is functioning in this age of Kali. Bhrigu cursed Lord Shiva's followers that one who takes to Lord Shiva or follow such principles will become an atheist and be diverted from transcendental spiritual injunction. Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is called Janardana, the well-wisher of all living creatures. The best path to transcend all material curses is to take the shelter of Sri Krishna. Vedas and Vedic knowledge is spoken by Sri Krishna. No one has traced out when the Vedas were written because they were never written by any living being within this material world. It was spoken by Sri Krishna, who is beyond the material creation. Study of Vedas promotes people to spiritual life. Lord Shiva knew that both his men and Daksha's men were cursing and counter-cursing without any interest in spiritual life. Pandita Samadarshinaha. Lord Shiva did not see anyone as lower or higher. He is the greatest Vaishnava. Curse of Daksha was a blessing for Lord Shiva that he need not sit with other demigods for the yajna. Humility means a devotee is not anxious for honor. Shiva was silent, tolerant as a blade of grass, and quietly left the place. All the assembled sages performed sacrifice for 1000 years. After the sacrifice, all the sages, demigods, brahmanas took their bath at the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna and completed the yajna performance. Such a bath is called Avabrata Snana. After thus becoming purified at heart, they departed for their respective abodes. All Krishna conscious devotees are always peaceful, calm. They are never cursed by anyone, nor do they attempt to curse anyone. Lord Krishna is merciful by giving us the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and a tongue to chant the Maha Mantra. Chanting of this Maha Mantra is the greatest yajna of Kali Yuga. The chanting purifies all societies, makes humanity happy spiritually. One's life will change. He will see new light, and a devotee's life will be successful by chanting this Maha Mantra. Jai Shri Krishna. Thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Any questions, comments, realizations for Mother Jija?
Audio visually is fantastic.
She covered everything. Perfect.
Excellent visual effect.
All right, very good. Correct points. Yes, Mother Jija always has very good visuals for representations. So let me summarize Canto 4, Chapter 2. Canto 4, Chapter 2 is titled Daksha Curses Lord Shiva. This incident of Daksha and Shiva is a negative incident and has very important learning of not doing offenses and to not become angry, because anger is very detrimental on the path of spirituality. Now, first should not have cursed and then further learning is to not counter curse like how Nandishwara counter curses. What needs to be done is taught by Shiva later on, that Shiva stayed completely silent, tolerated everything, and simply left. At the start of the chapter, Vidura inquires about Daksha's hatred towards Shiva, leading to Sati quitting her body because Daksha is Prajapati, Shiva is gentle and spiritual master of the whole world, non-envious, always peaceful, self-satisfied, and greatest demigods and the greatest Vaishnava. So, how could this happen, leading to Sati quitting the body? And therefore, the whole scenario is described that Daksha enters the sacrificial arena and becomes angry on Shiva and blasphemes Shiva because Shiva, being son-in-law of Daksha, was expected to show his father-in-law respect by standing up with others. But because Brahmaji and Shiva are principal demigods, their positions are greater than Daksha's position. Daksha, however, could not tolerate this, and he took it as an insult by his son-in-law. So for each of the blasphemy words of Daksha, Acharyas have described that it was actually an indirect praise of Shiva. So Daksha called Shiva as shameless. The indirect praise for Shiva is that Shiva maintains even the shelterless. Daksha said Shiva destroyed fame and polluted the path of gentle manners. The indirect praise is that by his own fame, Shiva derides the fame of all others. Daksha said Shiva pretending to be honest, and by accepting my daughter's hand, Shiva has himself accepted as my subordinate. The indirect praise is that Shiva understands my bad behavior, but keeps it a secret, and therefore he did not stand up and welcome me. Daksha blasphemed that this monkey-eyed person has married my daughter, but failed to respect me. The indirect praise is that Shiva mercifully grants desires of monkey-like materialistics. But I, Daksha, did not respect Shiva. Daksha further said that Shiva does not perform rituals. The indirect praise is that Shiva does not need to perform any rituals. Daksha said that like a madman, Shiva sometimes laughs and sometimes cries. The indirect praise is that Shiva is mad with prema for the Supreme Lord. Daksha said Shiva is most mad and inauspicious. The indirect praise is that Shiva, even in the worst place, becomes auspicious. Shiva makes the worst places auspicious. Daksha said Shiva is dear to crazy and those in ignorance. The indirect praise is that Shiva elevates even the most ignorant to spiritual consciousness. All these Daksha's blasphemy and curses were actually an indirect blessing for Shiva. Because of Daksha's curse, Shiva was deprived of his share in oblations of Vedic sacrifices. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in that Lord Shiva was actually saved from the calamity of taking part with other demigods who were all materialistic. Lord Shiva is greatest devotee of Supreme Lord, and it is not fitting for him to eat or sit with materialistic persons like the demigods. Therefore, the curse of Daksha was indirectly a blessing for Shiva, because Shiva would not have to eat or sit with other demigods who are all materialistic. Now, anger is very detrimental. In anger, one forgets everything. Therefore, in anger, Daksha accuses the great Lord Shiva, and Daksha even criticized his own father Brahmaji. The learning is that one should not become angry, because the whole body gets polluted. Daksha did not acknowledge that the request to get his daughter married to Shiva was from his father. Instead, he referred to Brahmaji as the supreme teacher in the universe because of his temperament of anger. He was not even prepared to accept Brahmaji as his father, and Daksha accused even Brahmaji of being less intelligent for his advice to get Sati married to such a nasty fellow. And then Nandishvara counter curses Daksha and his followers. So first, should not have cursed, and then the further learning is to not counter curse. What needs to be done is taught by Shiva, that Shiva stayed completely silent, tolerated everything, and simply left, which signifies Shiva's excellent Vaishnava character. A Vaishnava is always tolerant, and Lord Shiva is considered the topmost Vaishnava. And his character, as shown in this scene, is excellent. Shiva became morose because he knew that these people, both his men and Daksha's men, were unnecessarily cursing and counter-cursing one another without any interest in spiritual life. Shiva did not see anyone as lower or higher because he is a Vaishnava. Per Bhagavad Gita 5.18, Pandita Samadarshina, that one who is perfectly learned does not see anyone as lesser or greater, because he sees everyone from the spiritual platform. And that's how Shiva saw everybody equal. And the only alternative left for Lord Shiva was to leave the place in order to stop his follower Nandishvara as well as Bhrigu Muni from cursing and counter-cursing each other. That's a quick summary of chapter 2. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So chapter 3 is Chandran Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, for want of time, if I present, it might extend. My humble request, can it be replayed if it is possible.
Yeah, I will play the recording.
Hare Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, and Sri Sri Radha Krishna, seeking permission from Guru and Gauranka to speak on the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 3, in continuity of the Part 1, 2, 3. Seeking permission from all the assembled devotees for any of my shortcomings. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Requesting devotees assembled to forgive me for shortcomings. Hare Krishna. The subject matter what I going to speak about is the Daksha starts another sacrifice as a part 1. The reason for misunderstanding between Lord Shiva and Daksha was that Daksha, being father of Sati, has not invited son-in-law Shiva for the sacrifice performed. Daksha, as a chief progenitor and son of Brahma, was proud of his position. When a man becomes too proud of his material possession, he can perform any disastrous act. Daksha acted out of false prestige. All sacrifices are intended to pacify Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva and other demigods are obedient servants of Lord Vishnu. Vishnu wants his followers to be satisfied first. Thus, Daksha's determination to neglect Lord Shiva in the sacrifice was not fitting. In the Brahaspada Seva sacrifice, many heavenly women decorated beautifully assembled with their husbands, wives of the demigods, sages, and their cheerfulness were auspicious signs of the ceremony. Part 2. Sati tries to convince Shiva to go to the sacrifice. Sati heard the heavenly denizens flying in the sky conversing about the great sacrifice being performed by her father. Sati submitted her desire so politely to her husband that if he desires to go, she could also accompany him. A woman wants to decorate herself with ornaments with nice and accompany her husband to serve social functions, to meet friends and relatives is the basic principles of material enjoyment. Instead of decreasing one's material demands, one becomes entangled in material enjoyment. Whereas Lord Shiva is not at all attracted by material enjoyment, Lord Shiva was reluctant. Lord Shiva was always in ecstasy with thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She specifically indicated that she would decorate the ornaments given by her father. She was anxious to go for the sacrifice for the reason she will be able to see her sisters, their husband, and the other affectionate relatives assembled there. The illusion of accepting the perverted reflection to real is not present in Lord Shiva because he is self-realized. Father, mother, and family relatives are illusionary relationship to him. Sati did not have much knowledge about self-realization. One who has attraction for birthplace for his body is considered to be like an ass or cow. She hankered after the same material objects of affection. Those who are just like play things in the hands of such a woman cannot make any advancement in spiritual realization. Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison for others' benefit, who were not so advanced. Now, his wife personally requested him to go to her father's house, even if he did not wished to give that permission, he should do so out of his great kindness. She felt there is no harm if one goes to the house of one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. She requested Lord Shiva to show kindness on her and accept her desire to visit her father's sacrifice. Next part is Lord Shiva's reason not to go to the sacrifice. Lord Shiva remembered strong words spoken against him by Daksha in the assembly of guardians of the universe. He was sorry at heart, but to please his wife, smiled. Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a liberated person is always in mental equilibrium in both the distress and the happiness of the material world. The question here is, why then the liberated soul Lord Shiva was unhappy? He is the incarnation in charge of the material mode of ignorance, Tamoguna, sometimes affected by the pleasure and pain of material world. In spiritual world, the effect is qualitatively absolute. Pain is always full of bliss. Lord Shiva was faultless. Even then, Daksha had cursed him in so many harsh words. Likewise, Shiva warned that since her father was too puffed up by his material possession, he would be angry and this would be intolerable for her. Hence, it was better that she not to go. Qualities of pride persons are stated here. When the qualities of good education, good percentage, beauty and sufficient wealth are misplaced in a person who is puffed up by all these possessions, they produce a very bad result. Analogy is milk is very nice food, but when it is touched by an envious serpent, it becomes poisonous. Similarly, Daksha was envious. All the good qualities were polluted, sometimes detrimental for a person advancing in spiritual consciousness. Material exhaustion is an advantage for advancement in Krishna consciousness. One can utilize one's material assets for the service of the Lord, then it becomes glorious. Unless one is Krishna conscious, all his material possessions are zero. They may play havoc and degrade the possessor. Malicious persons should not be trusted because they are always unsteady. Thus, Sati was advised not to go to her father's house because without being invited by his father was not suitable. Shiva reminded her that she would not be able to tolerate such unkind words because natural psychology dictates that although one can suffer harm from an enemy and not mind so much because pain inflicted by an enemy is natural. When one is hurt by the strong words of a relative, the injury becomes intolerable that one commits suicide. Lord Shiva put forward as even if Sati proposed to go alone without her husband, she would not be received well because she is wife of Shiva, hence advised her as not to go to father's house. The real reason for the enmity between Lord Shiva and Daksha is explained as Daksha was envious of Lord Shiva because of Shiva's high position as an incarnation of a quality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because Shiva was directly in contact with the Super Soul and was honored and given a better sitting place than he. Lord Shiva was in meditation and might not have seen Daksha entering the assembly. Daksha took the opportunity to curse him because Daksha had an envious attitude towards Lord Shiva for a long time. Self-realized, see everything, individual body as temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in it. Daksha was not an elevated soul. He thought that obeisances were offered to the material body, hence Shiva did not offer respect to Daksha's material body. He was envious. Asuras, demons, or atheists are always envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Gita 18.65 explains to who are envious. Krishna says, Manmana Bhava Mat Bhaktya means always think of me, become my devotee, and surrender unto me to reach the highest standard of self-realization. Among Vaishnavas, even a disciple offers obeisances to his spiritual master. The spiritual master immediately returns the obeisances because they are mutually offered not to the body but to the super soul situated in the body of the other disciple. Daksha was identified with his body, hence there was no need to offer respect to his body as per Vedic injunction. Lord Shiva reminded Sati, for a woman, both father and husband are worshipable. Father is giver of the body. He may also be the taker of her body. When you see your father, because of your association with me, he may insult you. An insult from a relative is worse than a death, especially when one is well situated. Shiva cautioned Sati, saying, in spite of his instruction, if she decides to go neglecting his words, she will be insulted by her relatives, and that result will immediately be equal to death. That is my humble submission of the subjects given to me. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna to everyone.
All right, super excellent. Any questions, comments, realizations for Chandran Prabhu?
Brilliant presentation, Prabhuji, with a penetrative voice.
Mm.
So you cannot, so I am really little nervous now.
Mm. All right.
Very well done, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, very well done with the explanations, with the analogies, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Excellent
Chandran Prabhu.
presentation, Prabhu, and quoting of the verses as well. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and Chandran Prabhu was doing very confidently the presentation in a peaceful manner. Very good. So let me do quick presentation of Canto 4, Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is titled Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. This Chapter 3 is on pride. So to answer Vidura's inquiry that why did Sati give up her body, Maitreya Muni describes the sacrifice conducted by Daksha, to which Lord Shiva was not invited. Daksha is proud because of his material opulences, and he is performing a sacrifice. So Daksha's daughter Sati heard the heavenly denizens conversing about Daksha's sacrifice. So Sati tries to argue to convince Lord Shiva to go to the sacrifice that it is your father-in-law's sacrifice. All demigods are also going. And Sati's sisters would have gone with their husbands. Therefore, I also want to decorate myself and go with you, that I will be able to see my mother, sisters, and other relatives and see the best sacrifice. I desire to see my birthplace, not only my relatives, but other ornamented women are also going with their husbands. The festivities are visible in the sky with swan-like airplanes. You, Shiva, by drinking poison, you showed kindness to others. Now please be kind on me also. And it is no harm in going to house of friend, husband, father without invitation. You are known to be merciful. Therefore, so show mercy towards me also. So these were all Sati's arguments. In response, Lord Shiva gives reasons not to go to the sacrifice because the host Daksha has mentality of finding fault with the guest. The 6 qualities of saintly people of knowledge, austerity, wealth, beauty, youth, and heritage makes a proud person blind. Analogy is given that milk is very nice food, but when milk is touched by an envious serpent, it becomes poisonous. Serpent by nature is envious of other living entities. Even though the other living entity is faultless, the serpent still bites the other person even when the other person is not at fault. Similarly, material assets such as education, wealth, beauty, and good parentage are undoubtedly nice, but when they decorate persons of malicious nature, then they act adversely. When the qualities of good education, good parentage, beauty, and sufficient wealth are misplaced in a person who is puffed up by all his possessions, they produce very bad results. Because Daksha was proud of his material possessions, and because he was envious, all his qualities were polluted. It is therefore sometimes detrimental for a person advancing in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness to possess such material assets. Analogies describe that unless one is Krishna conscious, all his material possessions are zero. But when this zero is by the side of the Supreme One, it at once increases in value to 10 or more. So unless situated by the side of the Supreme One, zero is always zero. One may add hundreds of zeros, but the value will still remain zero. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Kunti Devi addressed Krishna as Akinchana Gochara, that he is easily approached by those who are bereft of material acquisitions. Material exhaustion is an advantage for advancement in Krishna consciousness. If one is conscious of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, one can utilize one's material assets, such as great learning and beauty and exalted ancestry, for the service of the Lord. Only then such assets become glorious. To explain this, the analogy is given that as soon as one is fully Krishna conscious, it is understood that one is in his pure original constitutional position. This state of existence is called Shuddha Sattva, which means that it is transcendental to material qualities. Since this Shuddha Sattva existence is under the direct action of internal potency in the state of activities of material consciousness, they stop when you are at Shuddha Sattva level. material activities stop at Shuddha Sattva level. The example to explain this is that when iron is put into fire, and when iron is red hot, although it is iron, but it is acting like fire. Or when copper is surcharged with electricity, its action as copper stops and it acts as electricity. Sati may say that even low-minded person have affection for their children. And in response, Shiva says that should not go to the house of one who is disturbed and angry, even if it is your father's house. And Sati would argue that she would be tolerant, as a son sometimes tolerates the reproaches of his parents. Therefore, Shiva says that harsh words of relatives hurt more than the sharp arrows. Lord Shiva reminded Sati that she would not be able to tolerate such unkind words because of natural psychology. Natural psychology dictates that although one can suffer harm from an enemy and not mind so much, because pain inflicted by an enemy is natural. But when one is hurt by the strong words of a relative, one suffers the effects continually, day and night, and sometimes the injury becomes so intolerable that one may commit a suicide. Thus, Shiva asks Sati to not go to the sacrifice. False ego leads to envy. In reality, one should respect a Vaishnava. But it is that false ego and envy comes in the way where one ends up disrespecting Vaishnava and others. But one should respect a Vaishnava. That's a quick summary of chapter 3. Questions, comments, realizations.
Prabhuji, up to now, all the chapters covered are very, very enlightening and educative in our day-to-day materialistic life. I really appreciate this is a divine topic.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for hearing with rapt attention. You are correct that there are practical learnings from each of these chapters. Very good. Uncle will present chapter 4.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. All the assembled devotees. I seek permission and blessings from you all. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Parampara and Sri Radha and Krishna. Seeking permission and being able to speak. Should there be any shortcoming, please forgive me. Hare Krishna. By the mercy of Lord Krishna, in the process and path of spiritual endeavor, I am really privileged to share my realization, the essence of enlightening divine topics in 6 parts in a coherent manner from Canto 4, Chapter 4, Unit 15, verses 1 to 34. And they are in 6 parts. And the first one, Sati leaves Lord Shiva. Second, Sati gets cold response from Daksha. Third, Sati condemns Daksha. Fourth, Sati gives up her body. And 5, a great cry arises from the sky. And the last one, rivers drive away Lord Shiva's attendants. Sati leaves Lord Shiva, could not be persuaded by Shiva, Sati, to allow her to go to her father's house. He was keen to see her relatives despite Shiva's warning, for he knew that she would be insulted there. But Sati's hidden agenda was, actually she wanted to see her husband was being respected. Offerings by way of the mantras offering oblations to Lord Shiva. Therefore, Sati decides to go to Daksha's place of yagna. The purpose of animal put in sacrifice is to give a new life and not meant to be killed and eaten. The great sages and realized souls assembled to perform yagna, devotional service. Their realization was validated by ritual animal sacrifice. Just as in medicine, effectiveness on animals is validated to determine effectiveness. Sati gets cold response from Daksha. During yagna, men present were the learned brahmanas and the demigods. They were scared, despite in their minds wanted to receive Sati. To appease Daksha, they did not welcome Sati except her mother and sisters, due to natural affection, received Sati. Sati regretfully observed that the foremost devotee of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, her husband, and herself, were in love for Vishnu. There was no utterance of mantra offering oblation to Lord Shiva, which is a blasphemy. One should be angry when Vishnu or Vaishnava is insulted and should not be tolerated. Rightfully, Sati was angry against her father, which is laudable. She was not sorry for herself, but she was most concerned that husband was blasphemed in the sacrifice, especially meant to satisfy yagna, Lord Vishnu. Sati condemns Daksha. In Bhagavad Gita 9.29, the Lord says, Am Sarvo Bhuteshu, meaning, I am equal in all living entities. Similarly, Lord Shiva is in a qualitative incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead, which means that Lord Shiva is equal to everyone. None is either a friend nor enemy. By nature, if one is envious, can become the enemy of. Hence, Sati accused her father Daksha that he is the only one envious of Lord Shiva and not the sages and learned brahmanas assembled there. Sadhu Asutasa Shiva magnified good quality, where yes, Asadu like Daksha, she is only false, overlooking good qualities in others. Material world is full of faults. Daksha failed to ignore faults with others. King Daksha was engrossed in misconception since he identified the body with the soul. He thought his body, being the father of Sati, was superior to Lord Shiva. Generally, less intelligent men misidentify this way and commit more and more offenses, considered to be in the class of animals like cows and asses. Sati counters Daksha resentment towards Shiva. He explains good qualities of Lord Shiva, that his lotus feet are sought after by transcendentalists. He is a friend of everyone, the common men, the elevated men, and the devotees of the Lord. Hence, no one should disrespect or create enmity towards Lord Shiva. The point is of Sati statement is that Brahma, a great sages who are descendants of Brahma, also respect Lord Shiva. That he is not an ordinary living entity, but he is exalted in position. Hence, Daksha, her father, should also recognize him. When she was unable to convince her father, she gave up her unworthy body, a source of embarrassment he had given to her, to compensate for the great sin committed by hearing blasphemy of Lord Shiva, due to her personal respect, being her husband, and due to his exalted position. Her body constantly a source of unhappiness. She decided to give it up. Despite her power to vanquish many universes, including Daksha, in order to save Shiva from the charge that he employed his wife to kill Daksha. Sati can offer material opulences to the worshippers of Lord Shiva in order to glorify her husband, whereas the worshippers of Vishnu are meant for spiritual elevation. Sati's behavior is exemplary because no one should tolerate blasphemy against Lord Vishnu or his like Lord Shiva, who is always a transcendentalist. Sati gives up the body. Sati, instead of destroying her father, preferred to destroy the body given to her by Daksha, by yogic process, controlling the air passing within the body, thus bringing the soul to the top of the brain. Then the body bursts into flame. She did not commit suicide out of frustration. Actually, she quit her body, meaning sacrifice how relationship within her heart. She transferred the soul to Mother Future Parvati so that she might have the uncontaminated association eternally with Lord Shiva. Thus Sati meditated as the holy lotus feet of Lord Shiva, completely cleaned all sins and quit her body in blazing fire. A great cry arises from the sky. Sati gave up her body in dissatisfaction. One cannot attain satisfaction despite greatest opulences. One has to achieve real satisfaction to Atma, the body, mind, and soul. The most exalted great soul, Sati's death was due to Daksha, the Prajapati, who neglected his daughter, is called Brahma Bandhu. Hard-hearted, even tolerated the death of his pet daughter. Rebus drive away Shiva's attendants. The attendants came with Sati decided to die for her as their duty, since they could not protect her. Before dying, wanted to kill Daksha, but Bhrigu Muni's utterances of mantric hymns killed them. Many demigods named Rebus became manifested, and all the attendants fled in different directions. In this fallen age, the gift of Lord Chaitanya's highest perfection of life is available if one adopts chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra to achieve self-realization. The message for all of us, when you do bhakti to Krishna, your Atma is satisfied. Hare Krishna, this is my realization, Prabhuji.
All right, super excellent. Any questions, comments, realizations for Uncle?
Good, Daddy. Good. Prabhuji, everything is covered.
Super excellent presentation, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, very good presentation by Uncle.
All right. Yes, very good presentation. I will quickly summarize chapter 4. Chapter 4 is titled Sati Quits Her Body. As Lord Shiva could not be persuaded to give Sati permission to allow her to go to her father's house, Sati took shelter of a woman's last weapon, which is weeping, which forces a husband to agree to proposal of his wife. Sati decides to go to the sacrifice by herself, But she gets a cold response from her father Daksha. In fear of Daksha, no one received Sati properly. Only Sati's mother and sisters embraced her with affection. Sati saw that there were no oblations for her husband, Lord Shiva, in the sacrifice. Sati was most concerned that her husband was being insulted at the sacrifice. When Vishnu or Vaishnava is blasphemed or dishonored, one should be very angry. Therefore, Sati became angry and condemned Daksha, as well as Sati defends her husband Shiva by describing the good qualities of Shiva. There is no superior nor rival in this world to Shiva. Shiva is equal to all. Shiva is most beloved of all. Shiva is without enmity. Shiva is beyond Vedic rules. Who except you, Daksha, will hate Lord Shiva? The qualities of sadhu and asadhu are compared here. Sadhu means he accepts faults in others and tries to transform into good qualities. Mahatara, he overlooks faults and sees only good qualities. Mahatama, he takes small good qualities and magnifies those good qualities without seeing faults. And Ati Mahatma, he sees good qualities in others where there are none. And the negative of each of these levels is asadhu thinks that someone's good qualities will turn into faults. Asadhutara, he sees only faults, overlooking good qualities. Asadhu Mahatma, he takes small faults and magnifies faults without seeing good qualities. And Ati Asadhutama, he sees only faults in others, even when there are no faults. Daksha blasphemes Shiva, and Daksha happens to be Sati's father. Therefore, Sati decides not to kill Daksha. Rather, Sati decides to give up her own life. Sati is Lord's external potency, Prakriti. Sati can vanquish many universes, including many Dakshas. But to save her husband Shiva from the charge that Shiva killed Daksha through his wife Sati, and that Daksha was father of Sati, hence it was not proper for Sati to kill Daksha. Therefore, Sati gave up her own life. Sati said that my body is source of embarrassment because the body has come from the offender Daksha. Therefore, Sati gives up her own body, which she had received from Daksha. And immediately, Sati transferred herself to another better body. But this does not mean that Sati got a spiritual body. No, she got another body. From Sati's giving up her body, Srila Prabhupada explains the principle that Sati was daughter of Daksha, the greatest of all kings, and wife of Lord Shiva, the greatest of all demigods. She had nothing to desire, but still she gave up her body in dissatisfaction. Certainly, this is astonishing. One cannot attain complete satisfaction even if one is situated in the greatest material opulence. There is nothing Sati could not achieve, either from a relationship with her father or from a relationship with the greatest of all demigods, Shiva. But still, for some reason, she was dissatisfied. Therefore, in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6 explains that one has to achieve real satisfaction. Yayatma suprasiddhati. Atma means the body, mind, and soul all become completely satisfied only if one develops devotional service to the absolute truth. Savai pumsa paro dharma yato bhakti radokshare. If one can develop this unflinching love for the transcendental Supreme Lord, that can give complete satisfaction. Otherwise, there is no possibility of satisfaction in the material world or anywhere else. And lastly, Rubus drive away Lord Shiva's attendants from the sacrifice. That's a quick summary of chapter 4. Questions, comments, realizations? So in essence of time, we will revise chapter 5 at our next class instead of today, together with chapter 6 and 7. So chapter 5, there is still the presentation slot is open. Whosoever wants can consider to do chapter 5 presentation. All of you are doing super excellent presentations. You all have perfected this presentation skill, as well as you all are also being role models for others, because your presentations, say for Bhagavad Gita, they are heard by devotees from other batches down the line for their respective presentations that they plan to do as we progress. So thank you all. It's super excellent on all of your part. Any questions, comments, realizations before we stop for the day?
Prabhuji, once again, would you please provide the slides in the Excel sheet? I will take a snapshot.
Which slide you see?
The last one which you, this one. Yes, take it.
Okay, we'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.